Have you ever been to the beach or been fishing and then you look over and you see some big salmon-headed creature trying to rip off some girl's bikini? Man, that'd be pretty cool to see, but I've never seen it. But I'm going to tell you about it with the film I'm going to be reviewing today. So let's get into it.
Humanoids from the deep. They began in the water. They're not human, but they hunt human women. Not for killing.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Futchy's Futch Monster Cinema. On this review today, I got this movie from listening to the Slaughtered Lamb podcast by Darren Sands and Frank Riker. So if you have not checked that out, definitely look it up. It's fantastic. You will enjoy everything they have to talk about, because that's where I got this movie from. I'm going to be reviewing today, thanks to Darren Sands. I am reviewing Monster, Humanoids of the Deep from 1980. I know this ain't my usual slasher type of business, but once he told me what this movie was about, I had to give it a shot. It's a pretty damn wacky film. Acting is not very good. It's actually kind of corny, but I still had a really good time with it. The idea is very interesting. It seems like something that I would like to see get remade today and see how they can take it. Obviously, effects have come a long way, so these creatures probably could look even better today, and definitely way more terrifying of a story could go along with the better looking creatures to make this film 10 times better. But I'm going to get into this one, and if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. It's worth a watch. It stars Doug McClure, Ann Turkle, and Vic Morrow. This one was directed by Barbara Peters. The basis of this movie surrounds a fishing town. That's how this town makes their living out in California. People going about their usual day fishing and whatnot, and then these humanoid creatures come out of nowhere and just start wreaking havoc and killing the men and trying to rape the women so they can reproduce more and increase their numbers. Opening, this dad and son and this other fisherman are fishing out on a boat. They got something in a net, and they're not quite sure what it is. They just know it's really heavy, and they're having a rough time pulling it in. But from the underwater camera views, you can see it's obviously not a fish. It's some kind of monster or a creature under there. Little kid had to fill the wench up with gasoline. He forgot to put the freaking cap on. The thing falls over, which comes back to play in a couple minutes. Kid falls overboard. Opening kill, they kill a kid. So this movie's crazy and willing to go there. Dragged underwater, you never see him again. The other fisherman was grabbing a flare gun to come and help. He slips on the gasoline that was on the ground. Flare hits it. Boat bursts into flames. Freaking explodes. Boat explosion right in the beginning of this film. And the onlookers are just watching, and they see this going down, and there's nothing they can do about it because they don't know what exactly is going on out there. People's dogs go missing. Obviously, the humanoids get hungry, so they were eating people's dogs. The remains of the carcasses were laying on the beach. These creatures are actually pretty damn savage. They may not be the best looking creatures with these brain looking salmon big heads they have, but they got massive claws, all slimy, like green, like wetsuits, obviously, because they probably didn't have a very high budget back in the day. But the way they move and walk is kind of corny, but you can still have a good time with it. Obviously, this is the kind of movie you just shut your brain off. Not much thinking involved. You're watching these goofy humanoid creatures come on the land, killing dudes and raping women. As weird of a premise as that sounds, it's actually kind of enjoyable. Not the raping women part. That's not enjoyable at all. But you know what I mean. They love to rip off girls' clothes in this movie. These two are having, getting a little freaky down by the beach. They're in the water doing stuff. They're playing a game, like go underwater, pop back up and whatnot. And he's like playing practical jokes on his girlfriend. Until he doesn't come back up the next time, and he does resurface, but he got like flesh, his wounds, he's all ripped apart and shit. And the gore and the effects were actually pretty decent in this movie. So she's running for her life, but here comes a humanoid, rips off her bra, and does the unthinkable. This creature starts raping this woman because their goal is to repopulate and to have more babies so they can take over. And the only way to do that is to, I guess, obviously, have sex with human women so that they can carry their babies and then reproduce. That girl's name that got raped in the beginning of this movie, her name was Peggy, and she comes back into play a little bit later at the end of the film. There's another attack. These two are camping out on the, like, having sex out in the tent on the beach. The humanoid rips through the tent. That's 2 consecutive movies where I've done a kill that happened in a tent, conveniently. That wasn't Friday the 13th. He kills the dude again, and what's he do with the lady? Rips off her clothes and rapes her as well. These humanoids are some horny bastards, and they're all about nudity. Except for this nudity, this girl's running down the beach like butt naked. Butt naked. And I'm going to pull a Jason Smith here. She had a nice rack, I'm just going to say. I don't usually talk about that in these reviews, but damn, they were perfect. Thanks, Jason Smith, for pumping me full of bad things. We come to find out that this business, Canco, they were doing some research, genetically like modifying like salmon and whatnot. Well, they accidentally got released the salmon into the ocean, which then were eaten by bigger fish, which then mutated into what has become these humanoids. They were experimenting with growth hormones to make them bigger, and obviously it backfired. You don't mess with nature. It turned the bigger fish into these mutants that came from these small salmons that were injected with the growth hormone and whatnot. So they're coming back to, you know, repopulate and grow their herd or their school or whatever. I think fish are called school, I think, right, guys? But Dr. Susan, she works for Canco. She's hooked up with Jim. He witnessed the first boat explosion, and he had to get involved somehow because he knew something wasn't right here. So they got together and they were working up a plan to stop these humanoids and stop these attacks and rapes. But conveniently, it was the annual festival at this fishing village, so way more people for the humanoids to attack. And this time they weren't waiting around just for 1 or 2. All the humanoids came out, killing every man, trying to rape as many women as they possibly could. Jim's plan was to pour gasoline onto all the surrounding water that was by them so that the humanoids wouldn't have an escape to get back into the water. So they cut off the return home. So then pretty much it was just them getting shot continuously. Everybody, they were shooting them in the face, shooting them in the stomach. It was just a bloodbath of the humanoids. They were trying to kill people, but they were getting shot at the same time. It was like a war, but obviously with the low budget, it wasn't as high scale as we would have hoped for. It was still a good enough scene for the movie. Conveniently, it I guess they killed the last humanoid, and magically it's the next morning, and the sun comes out, and everything is, sunshine and rainbows. It's like it never even happened. And the ending scene of this movie, the Peggy who was raped earlier, they go to her in the hospital bed, and guess what? She's pregnant, about to deliver a child. And it is not a human child, my friend. The humanoid pulls some alien shit, like a chest burster, pops right out of her chest, and ugly little bastard.
Peggy? Oh my God!
Looks like a miniature version of the big humanoid. It's just really small, and I guess the cycle's gonna start all over again. So I guess the humanoids have a penis and they have sex with a woman and they make a baby. That's adorable. That's adorable. What if they had a nice house? They had a nice family. They have a backyard swimming pool, fresh water or ocean water, of course, salt water. They just have a good family life. White picket fence out in the front, little humanoid babies. it's gonna work, guys. I think we should do this. But that was one crazy ass movie. The creature design was okay, like I said. The salmon brain heads were kind of weird, but it worked. They had really, like, the sharp teeth were pretty cool, the claws. But obviously, low budget. You got to resource to what you can do with the wetsuits and whatnot. Which is probably why they waited to show the creature for a very long time in this movie. This movie's only about an hour, 15, 20 minutes, something like that. And they don't show the creature that much, which I'm assuming is because the budget was so low and the creature's effects weren't that great. But being in the 80s, it was okay. It worked. This movie was called Monster over in, like, Europe and Japan. And Humanoids of the Deep here in America. But on, like, the title card, it does say Monster at the top and then Humanoids of the Deep underneath. I know they did a remake of this movie, I think was in 1996. I have not seen that one. I think it was a made-for-TV film. But if you have not seen this, it's worth a watch. Like I said, just shut your brain off, have some popcorn, have a drink, have a beer, and check it out. It's worth it. It'll go by like this. Interesting premise. Like I said, I think it needs remade for today. They could amp up the effects, maybe amp up even some more gore, have a little bit bigger body count. I think it would work. Maybe focus a little bit more on the Camco, you know, the salmon actually escaping and whatnot, and seeing how that actually went down. But overall, it was a pretty fun ride I went on right here, and I'd probably, I mean, obviously it's not the greatest film in the world. I'd probably give it at least a 2.75 out of 5. It was alright. It wasn't terrible. Can have a good time with it. Might revisit it here in a little bit, who knows, but definitely check it out. And stay tuned for everything else I got going on this channel. And if you like this video, you know, come back and check out another one, because I'm going to keep them coming, and I appreciate any feedback that you guys give me. So actually right now I'm going to go fishing, and hopefully I catch a salmon. Have a scary day.